The Cook's Assistant. A certain famous, well-liked and influential merchant came to Bahudin Naqshband. He said in open assembly, "I have come to offer my submission to you and to your teaching, and beg you to accept me as a disciple." Bahudin asked him, "Why do you feel that you are able to profit by the teaching?" The merchant replied, "Everything that I have known and loved in the poetry and the teaching of the ancient, as recorded in their books, I find in you. Everything that other Sufi teachers preach, extol, and report from the wise ones, I find in actuality in you, and not in completeness and perfection with them. I regard you as at one with the great ones, for I can discern the aroma of truth in you and in everything connected with you." Bahudin told the man to withdraw, saying that he would give him a decision as to his acceptability in due time. After 6 months, Bahudin called the merchant to him and said, "Are you prepared to appear publicly with me in an interchange?" He answered, "Yes, by my head and eyes." When a morning meeting was in progress, Bahudin called the other man from the circle and had him sit beside him. To the hearers he said, "This is so-and-so, the distinguished king of merchants of this city. 6 months ago he came here and believed that he could discern the aroma of truth in everything connected with me." The merchant said, "This period of trial and separation, this 6 months without a glimpse of the teacher, this exile has caused me to plunge even more deeply into the classics, so that I could at least maintain some relationship with him whom I wish to serve, Bahudin el-Shah, himself visibly identical with the great ones." Bahudin said, "6 months have passed since you were last here. You have not been idle. You have been working in your shop, and you have been studying the lives of the great Sufis. You could, however, have been studying me, whom you regard as identifiably one with the knowers of the past, for I have been twice a week in your shop. During this 6 months during which we have not been in contact, I have been 48 times in your shop. Many of those occasions passed with my making some kind of transaction with you, buying or selling merchandise. Because of the goods and because of a simple change of dress and appearance, you did not recognize me. Is this discerning the aroma of truth?" The other man remained silent. Bahudin continued, "When you come near to the man whom others call Bahudin, you can feel that he is the truth. When you meet the man who calls himself the merchant Khaja Alavi, one of Bahudin's pseudonyms, you cannot discern the aroma of truth from that which is connected with Alavi. You find perceptibly in Naqshband only what others preach and themselves are not. In Alavi you do not find what the wise are but do not appear to be. The poetry and the teaching to which you have referred is an outward manifestation. You feed on outward manifestation. Do not, please, give that the name of spirituality." This merchant was Masood Nadimzada, later a famous saint, who became a disciple of Bahudin's after he had submitted to studying under the cook of the Khanka, who was quite uninstructed in poetry, spiritual talk, or exercises. He once said, "If I had not studied what I imagined to be a spiritual path, I would not have had to forget the numerous errors and superficiality which Khalifa Ashpaz, the cook, burned out of me by ignoring my pretensions." Why is wet not dry? For thousands of years before he was known to people at large, Khidr travelled the earth looking for those whom he could teach. When he found suitable students, he gave them truths and useful arts, but as often as he introduced new learning, it was appropriated and misused. People cared only about the application of ability and laws, and not about understanding in depth, so knowledge could not develop as a whole. So one day, Hida decided to apply a different means of learning. He made many things into their opposites. He made, for instance, what used to be wet into dry, and he made dry into wet. People soon became used to this, and simply adjusted themselves to regarding wet as dry and dry as wet. Having reversed an enormous number of things, Hida will come back one day to show which is which again. Until he does that, only a few will be able to benefit from Hida's work. Those who do not are those who like to say, "I knew that already," when they did not. Books. If I give out an empty book, meaning you cannot yet profit from my book, you will perhaps think, he is insulting me. But if I give out a full and understandable book, all readers will take its superficialities for their stimulation, exclaiming, "How magnificent, how profound!" People will follow these outward things after I am gone, making them a source of stimulation and debate. They will read didactics into them, or poetry, exercises, or stories. If I give out no books, or a small one, scholars will scoff and ruin the minds of potential and vulnerable students with alternative literature, even more than they do at present. Baffled students become destructive, imagining solutions and then trying to impose them upon others. If I give out a large book, some people will imagine that it is pretentious. All these suppositions are there, you notice, because they suit the people to have them, not because they are even likely to be true. If I give out a cryptic book, people will imagine that it contains strange secrets, or they may become unnecessarily artful through trying to understand it. And the more that you say these things, the more people petulantly or with disdain say, "You do not understand us. We have no such behavior. The lack of understanding is with you." But if I say all these things, and you will look at all of them, even for a time giving each statement equal attention, I shall be content. Behouden. When a man meets himself. One of man's greatest difficulties is also his most obvious drawback. It could be corrected if anyone troubled himself to point it out often and cogently enough. It is the difficulty that man is describing himself when he thinks that he is describing others. How often do you hear people say about me, "I regard this man as the kutub, or magnetic pole, of the age"? He means, of course, I regard this man. He is describing his own feelings or convictions, when what we might want to know is something about the person or thing being described. When he says, "This teaching is sublime," he means, "This appears to suit me." But we might have wanted to know something about the teaching, not how he thinks it influences him. Some people say, "But a thing can truly be known by its effect. Why not observe the effect upon a person?" Most people do not understand that the effect of, say, sunlight on trees is something constant. In order to know the nature of the teaching, we would have to know the nature of the person upon whom it has acted. The ordinary person cannot know this. All he can know is what that person assumes to be an effect upon himself, and he has no coherent picture of what himself is. Since the outward observer knows even less than the person describing himself, we are left with quite useless evidence. We have no reliable witness. Remember that while this situation still obtains, there will generally be an equal number of people saying, "This is marvelous," as are saying, "This is ridiculous." "This is ridiculous" really means, "This appears ridiculous to me," and "This is marvelous" means, "This appears marvelous to me." Do you really enjoy being like that? Many people do, while energetically pretending otherwise. Would you like to be able to test what really is ridiculous or marvelous, or anything in between? You can do it, but not when you presume that you can do it without any practice, without any training, in the midst of being quite uncertain as to what it is you are and why you like or dislike anything. When you have found yourself, you can have knowledge. Until then, you can only have opinions. Opinions are based on habit and what you conceive to be convenient to you. The study of the way requires self-encounter along the way. You have not met yourself yet. The only advantage of meeting others in the meantime is that one of them may present you to yourself. Before you do that, you will possibly imagine that you have met yourself many times. But the truth is that when you do meet yourself, you come into a permanent endowment and bequest of knowledge that is like no other experience on earth. Tarakavi. The Sufi and the Tale of Halaku. A Sufi teacher was visited by a number of people of various faiths who said to him, "Accept us as your disciples, for we see that there is no remaining truth in our religions, and we are certain that what you are teaching is the one true path." The Sufi said, "Have you not heard of the Mongol Halaku Khan and his invasion of Syria? Let me tell you. The Vizier Ahmad of the Caliph Mustasim of Baghdad invited the Mongol to invade his master's domains. When Halaku won the battle for Baghdad, Ahmad went out to meet him to be rewarded. Halaku said, "Do you seek your recompense?" And the Vizier answered, "Yes." Halaku told him, "You have betrayed your own master to me, and yet you expect me to believe that you will be faithful to me." He ordered that Ahmad should be hanged. Before you ask anyone to accept you, ask yourself whether it is not simply because you have not followed the path of your own teacher. If you are satisfied about this, then come and ask to become disciples.